The Avengers Doomsday trailer is finally here, and even though some fans weren't blown away, remember, this madness is just getting started. Fair warning, you are strictly forbidden from laughing at my predictions. Cause yeah, I'm gonna spoil stuff, I'm gonna remind you of stuff, I'm gonna compare it to the comics, and above all, I'm gonna get lucky and be right about 1 out of 100. Hopefully. Before anything else, this is gonna be really hard for me, rooting for the good guys this time, because Doom is by far my favorite Marvel villain. Anyway, we open on the sign for Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, wrecked and showing nothing less than the exact address of the mansion from Fox's X-Men movies. We see Professor Xavier looking out the window, and on the other side, what looks like a sun filling the sky, forcing him to shield his face. This is, or has to be, an incursion, another Earth about to collide with this universe. Actually, I think these X-Men have already destroyed Earths to survive, and what we're looking at is another Earth, one that was about to collide with theirs, but that they destroyed to save themselves, mainly because something appears to explode. But first, I imagine some of you are wondering what exactly is an incursion, and that's fair. Not everyone has read the comics or remembers all the terminology from the older movies. But don't worry, I'll explain it as best I can in a minute. We get our first look at Doom raising his hooded head, giving us a glimpse of a mask that looks incredible. And in the background, he seems to be in the gardens of the X-Mansion with the sun peeking through the haze. Or maybe that's just what they want us to think. You know, for the first time we hear his voice, Robert Downey Jr. as Victor Von Doom. He says something is coming, something they might not be able to stop, and that before the day ends, they'll be facing an unthinkable decision, which we're also going to talk about in a bit, because I don't want to mix everything together even more than it already is. In New York, picking up directly from Thunderbolt's post-credit scene, which remember is 14 months after that movie. At the new Avengers Tower, we hear Thor giving a speech. Oh, wait. I want to point out something kind of curious, though at this point probably irrelevant, about this tower. In Multiverse of Madness, we got a look at the Baxter building from another universe, and in Far From Home, we actually saw that someone bought Stark Tower before Thunderbolts, and funny enough, they line up a lot in design. Plus, the clear signs pointing towards something Fantastic Four related, though that probably got scrapped at some point once they landed the Fox rights, and we got first steps set in a different universe instead. But what if the Fantastic Four actually came to this tower to talk to the 616's own Reed Richards, looking for help, only to find out that he doesn't exist? Anyway, moving on, they step off the ship, the Fantastic Four and Thor, and in my opinion, more people they're not ready to reveal to us yet. At the very least, Steve Rogers, because someone explained to me who else is walking in with that haircut. He's the only one who wears it like that. And another one who's probably there too is Doom, but we'll dig into both of them later. The one I genuinely couldn't explain being there is Thor. Then again, historically, he's always been the one with the premonitions. Anyway, these three watch them walk in, and there's a lot to unpack here. Remember, in the post-credit scene, Bucky makes it pretty clear that Sam Wilson is very much against the new Avengers, to the point of copywriting the word Avengers. In fact, Sam's building his own team alongside the new Falcon, which we already knew from Captain America: Brave New World, when after nearly losing his partner, he accepts he can't do this alone. And worse, right after, the leader, Samuel Stearns, mocks him, warning him he's not ready for the multiversal threat coming when the others show up. That would explain what Ant-Man's doing here, an official Avenger recruited by Sam. But there's something else. Yelena says very clearly in her movie's post-credit scene that they got left out of some so-called space crisis that's happening. Actually, looking at the lighting outside and how eager Alexei is to fly off riding Sentry into the sky, my read is that Sam Wilson is already dealing with incursions on his own. They have to explain this really early on in the movie, or either in Brand New Day or in Vision Quest, because time's literally running out. If I had to bet, I think it's going to be at the end of Spider-Man, where for me, Sam Wilson is going to recruit him, and probably Banner too. Even though neither one's confirmed for Doomsday yet. Or even better, who says the post-credit scene isn't just Spider-Man doing his classic what the F face at watching an Earth incursion happen? There's also the Endgame re-release, but I'm guessing that's gonna be more focused on Doom and Steve. Anyway, saving the crazy talk for later, we hear Thor telling them they need to put their petty fights aside, while we clearly see Reed explaining incursions to his new teammates, and there's even a countdown timer behind him. Sorry, but I can swear there's people missing here. I know it sounds paranoid, I've just watched way too many Marvel trailers, and I refuse to believe that Sam Wilson, after supposedly forming a team, shows up to this meeting with just Ant-Man. Anyway, incursions. Reed explains this to the Illuminati in the comics. An incursion happens when two parallel universes start overlapping, and their Earths end up aligned at the exact same point in space, like both planets are trying to exist in the same position within their own realities. This happens because the premature death of a universe contracts the multiverse's timeline, pulling realities together that used to be separate. The problem is, once the Earths line up, after about 8 hours, they collide, and both universes die, which in turn triggers new incursions. So you'd ask, why doesn't Reed Richards just physically move the Earth like he was planning to do to dodge Galactus? Basically, Earth would still act as an anchor, the incursion would follow it there regardless, so that's not even an option. And in this movie's specific case, that graphic behind them shows we're looking at a triple incursion, known in the comics as Simtum Tapputu. Some of you might not remember, but Multiverse of Madness already had this Reed explain a bit about incursions and how his Strange caused one, which is why the Illuminati punished him. We even saw Strange walking through an Earth that was disappearing. And actually, in that movie's post-credit scene, Clea, the sorceress, comes looking for Strange to stop an incursion that, according to her, he caused and they have to fix. But how do you fix it? The only way to avoid it is for one of the Earths to be destroyed. That way both universes survive, but that means destroying an entire Earth and everyone on it. Or like Doom put it, an unthinkable decision. In the comics, the first thing the Illuminati try is using the Infinity Gauntlet to push the Earths apart, but that just ends up destroying the gems. So instead, they build an antimatter device and travel to the Earths to destroy them. Actually, at the Shanghai Expo, we gotta look at Reed's calculations and designs for multiversal cannons meant to prevent incursions. Though, who's willing to actually pull that trigger? Because in the comics, after defeating heroes from another Earth, the Illuminati, out of moral conflict, refuse to go through with it, and it's Namor who does it at the last second, going against his own teammates, which ends with Black Panther fighting him and the rest of them kicking him out of the Illuminati. In Doomsday, we know the Avengers split into two teams, and one of them meets up with Shuri and M'Baku, and together they try to convince Namor to help them, though the relationship with the Wakandans is clearly still tense, like in the comics. But at least seeing Namor keep the water parted like this, he seems willing to listen. We get interrupted by a very angry Thor going after Doom in what looks like the destroyed X-Men garden, though after seeing this difference between the teaser and the trailer, I don't trust the backgrounds much anymore. We see a staircase at the mansion explode for seemingly no reason, and Cyclops steps out for the first time in a suit that finally does him justice, and he seems ready to fight. Moving on to what is, for me, the peak of the trailer, Shang-Chi versus Gambit. We have absolutely no idea how either of them got there. Although if you look at their post-credit scenes, we know Shang-Chi had pretty direct contact with the Avengers, even though we still have no news of Banner or Captain Marvel in Doomsday. The easy read is that Sam Wilson recruited him as an Avenger. As for Gambit, we know he was rescued by the TVA at Deadpool's request, which you can see on the side in the Deadpool and Wolverine post-credit scene. That's actually this deleted scene. So maybe they just placed him in this universe and he's simply defending his home from an invader. And I'm about 70% sure Deadpool and Wolverine are also involved in this scene somehow. We see a hand, presumably Steve Rogers, holding a TVA credential, belonging to none other than Loki, and then we see Loki to make us think it's actually him looking at his own credential. The conspiracy theory that makes the most sense right now is that at some point, Loki pulls Steve Rogers and his new family out of their timeline and relocates them to another Earth. Earth 828. Actually, a lot of people think this was a cameo, Steve and his son in the Fantastic Four movie, and he's holding on to that credential to stay in touch with Loki. The real problem is, putting someone in a universe they don't belong to also could have caused an incursion. So the theory goes, Loki's merciful gesture is exactly what ends up kicking everything off. Back at the mansion, Yelena draws her gun. Behind her are Sam Wilson, Reed, and Shang-Chi, plus Herbie, the little robot. Mystique watches her now with a completely revamped look, way more comic accurate. She instantly transforms into Yelena, and they start fighting. We cut to Xavier and Magneto, who seem to be making peace with the end. I have to say, Magneto looks pretty rough for a guy who supposedly leveled New Jersey, like the actor mentioned at some point. These two scenes kind of confirm the theory that at this point at least, the classic mutant teams have made peace with each other. Scott Lang kisses his daughter's forehead with that bright light bathing everything from outside. I'm guessing it's the goodbye before the journey, or maybe it's the point where everyone's already accepted their fate, having failed to stop the incursions like actually happens in the comics. And remember, both her and Steve were announced way later as part of the cast, reinforcing the idea that there's still cast left to be revealed. Moving on, Johnny Storm, who we genuinely never saw join either of the two teams mentioned before, is hugging who, according to everyone, is his sister Sue, under another bright light that's clearly an incursion. But that doesn't add up. Literally, the very next shot is Sue, and her hair could not be straighter. You know who does have this exact wavy blonde hair? Franklin Richards. From the Fantastic Four post-credit scene. This scene could be like the one with Scott and his daughter, the moment where everything's already gone wrong and they're just waiting for the collision. Or maybe what we saw at the beginning was the Fantastic Four's Earth, presumably being destroyed by the X-Men, and Johnny, escaping with his family, doesn't want his nephew watching his planet die. Since literally nothing confirms that these three Earths colliding are actually the ones we think they are. We cut to Sue Storm and Shuri saying goodbye after the meeting with Namor, and then to Sam Wilson looking surprised at something, followed by Gambit slamming his staff on the ground and setting off a shockwave. The trailer's probably showing these shots in reverse order. When Gambit lands, we see Sam brace himself, and I'm guessing right after he looks over. So Cyclops, outside the mansion, unleashes his optic blast at full power, and behind him, Sentinels, one down, decapitated, others closing in around him. According to leaks, it's Doom who's controlling the Sentinels, the mutants' worst nightmare in their own universe turned against them. Or maybe Cyclops is just training, like we saw in the movie where we first met these Sentinels, and this is just a little trailer bait. Back in the desert, Sue Storm, up close, puts up a force field with that exact same face she made holding back Galactus, and Namor flying at full speed around that wall of water. Everything points to them fighting, or maybe that's simply how they got the water parted in the first place. And by the way, I'm really curious to see what role they end up giving Namor, because in the comics, after getting kicked out of the Illuminati, he forms his own team, full of bad guys including Thanos, to wipe out as many Earths as possible just to buy time for Earth 616, while the Illuminati had already given up. And it works. for a few months, until Namor eventually loses control of his own team and goes to Doom for help, but Doom turns him down. And speaking of which, we arrive at the center of it all, the most leaked scene in Doomsday. Thor does an almost exact recreation of his leap against Thanos in Infinity War, and this time he's aiming for the head, but Doom is a whole lot of Doom and stops Stormbreaker dead like it's nothing. Remember, this weapon was able to go up against the Infinity Stones, and looking at the rune on his glove, I can't help but theorize that at this point Doom has already absorbed Loki's power, because those little bits on the sides really do look like horns. And here's where you say, wait, what do you mean absorbed Loki's powers? Okay, let's see. Let's just assume Doom's gonna win whatever happens in this movie, setting up secret wars. Even though in the actual theater, it'll probably just look like everything ended with one big final white light covering the screen. In the comics, a cosmic entity known as the Beyonders, purely out of curiosity, plans to destroy the entire multiverse. To do it, they create a paradox that exists across every universe, a guy called the Molecule Man. Simply put, to stop this, Doom secretly travels around and takes out every version of him, and it's not until near the end that we find out this is what's been causing the incursions. Though I really doubt the movie's gonna do anything remotely close to this. Probably in Doomsday, Doom's just taking advantage of incursions that are happening naturally, since our heroes can't seem to stop breaking the multiverse lately, in almost every movie. Keep in mind, in the comics, after foiling the Beyonders' plan, he destroys them and takes their power, crowning himself as God Emperor Doom, pulling the remaining fragments of dying realities and putting them all together. In one place, he can rule them all. Battle World, where Secret Wars takes place. Which, worth noting, is where all this madness happened. If it's not the ending of this movie, it's the beginning of the next one. Has to be. Back to the rune. Personally, I don't think we're getting the Beyonders. There just isn't time for it. So my read is the all-powerful reality-warping entity that Doom's about to absorb is Loki, which gives this fight even more emotional weight. We get the first clean close-up of Doom's mask, and it looks incredible. Done under the metal, Robert Downey Jr.'s furious green eyes, while Thor screams in frustration, unable to push any further. Finally, we see Thor holding both his weapons on board the Fantastic Four's ship. I'm guessing pretty early in the movie, looking at someone with total disbelief. It's Steve Rogers, and he's got long hair and a beard, kind of like how he looked in Infinity War, and to prove he's the real Steve, he calls Mjolnir. And let's be real, the fact that Steve's on this ship pretty much confirms the theory that he's been living on the Fantastic Four's Earth. My take is that Doom is the one who spots this anomaly on his Earth once the incursions start, and together with the Fantastic Four, tries to get him out of Earth 828 in time. That's why he's looking for them in the post-credit scene. And the fact that he's there with Franklin, unmasked, makes me think that, unlike in the comics, his face isn't destroyed, at least not yet, which means maybe alongside Steve, Doom's also there without his mask, and that would explain so much disbelief, because if it were just Steve, honestly, that'd feel a little underwhelming. And careful, because when Steve calls the hammer, there's someone behind him, but judging by the silhouette, I'd say it's just Johnny Storm. Bottom line, my read is Doom's gonna show up with the Fantastic Four from their Earth, promising he's got a solution for the incursion, a trap everyone's gonna fall right into. And the second he gets the chance, he's gonna make himself the owner of the multiverse. And if I really want to split hairs here, I'll go ahead and say Ant-Man, who we also never saw go with either team, has his own mission. He steps into Hank Pym's shoes again, who in the comics is the one who finds out all the supreme cosmic entities were wiped out by the Beyonders. I picture Scott heading back into the quantum realm looking for answers, since after all he lived through Kang, and near the end of the movie he ends up finding Doom instead. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Doom takes him out. Same with Thor, who in the comics travels into the void to face the Beyonders and ends up dying. But like I was saying, in this version, whoever's waiting for him in that void is Doom, and that's where I think Thor is gonna die, because these two things that happen in the comics are part of why the heroes give up and accept their final fate. Maybe, in the movie, that's exactly what happens too. Or who knows, maybe that thing in the background behind Doom really is a Beyonder, and everything I just said doesn't even make sense. Either way, I think that's plenty of yappity yap for one trailer, so let's just stop. Hoping San Diego Comic-Con confirms or completely blows up all these wild theories. Because I feel like there's still a bit more coming this week. I mean, at the end of the day, we all basically knew this trailer months ago. And if you rewatch the Endgame trailer today, you'd easily spot everything they didn't tell us up front. Plus, we're still missing that almost confirmed Doom teaser where after lifting up a Sentinel, he says something like, "One day you'll forgive me." Don't forget to leave your like, and if you're not subscribed, don't worry, you'll just miss the recap of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe that we're putting out before this movie comes out.